We have Zach Berman live with us from MetLife Stadium.
What a transition.
Great look at you, Zach. You know, the collar, it looks like it has lost a little bit of its starch. So it looks like a much more normal collar. We will find a new slant. How are you? How's the locker room?
I'm happy to see you guys. Excited to come on the show.
Did they pop champagne for making the playoffs?
No, but that was their prevailing message, was that they're in the playoffs.
Oh.
Everything resets. It's 0-0, right? Like, come on. You know how many teams would wish they were in this position right now? That's the prevailing theme in there. That they won 11 games. They're in the playoffs. Everything resets. 0-0. Those were the talking points. That's what you heard. I don't know if that makes you feel better. They couldn't flip the switch last week. They couldn't flip the switch this week. So now they got to flip the switch next week, right? And that was a question that I had asked.
New switches to flip.
Yeah. I mean, at some point you are who you are, right?
I think they need a new breaker box at this point.
Seriously. But no, in the locker room, honestly, well, we can start with the most like the highest profile people, which is Nick Sirianni. It's a lot of the same message from him. They got to play better. They got to coach better. In terms of like how they can do this is it's the same thing he said, frankly, the past few weeks. These guys have been through adversity before. They've all been through adversity in their lives, and you pick yourself up off the mat. So he's playing the same card, right? I think that's the card he has to play. He even talked about what he said to the team before the NFC Championship game last year, which is like a very subtle reminder that, hey, they were in the NFC Championship game last year, right?
That's no accident.
No accident there, yeah. Because there were a lot of questions.
Tomorrow's Zoom press conference, he'll be wearing Super Bowl apparel from last year.
Yep. Yeah, this is that's kind of the thing that they like pointing out. Jalen Hurts, he spoke after the game. He said he'll take this day by day. The finger popped out. He's never had something like that before. He didn't want to talk about how it felt when he went back in there. Nick Sirianni said he was able to rip it when he went back in there, but we will see. A.J. Brown, I saw him. He actually greeted everyone as they came into the locker room. Was not wearing, I'm sorry, did not have crutches. Like, was not wearing anything other than like he had the sleeve on his knee, but nothing that would indicate this is a major long-term injury. Nick Sirianni does not have an update on that yet as well. Then we can get into kind of what different guys said in the locker room, but or what Sirianni and Hurts said. But I think as far as like the big items, that's what will knock off at the top.
Zach, I know it's your job to be in there, but like as a fan, I just don't care about Jalen Hurts speaking anymore. It's just cliche after cliche after cliche. What was your biggest takeaway from Sirianni? Is it self-scouting? Is new season? Like it's probably hard for people to believe in what they hear out of him at this point now after these past 6 weeks.
Yeah, honestly, my biggest takeaway from Sirianni is similar to what I just said, in that I don't think he has another card to play here, right? I think his messaging is what it's been. And yeah, the whole thing about 0-0, and you keep hearing that, right? They're in it. But honestly, it's similar to what we've heard the past few weeks. And frankly, the reason that I'd like to go to Sirianni each week, obviously he's the head coach, but you want to see, like, is there something different? What's jumping out that's different? So there's the big picture stuff. There's the game specific stuff. There's the stuff about, like, is the team still behind him? And he believes that's the case. He said you'd have to ask the players. The players are saying that publicly, right? But no, they did not show up for him today. Honestly, the best answer that I heard in the locker room today came from Dallas Goedert. And I say it's the best because it's like the only one that doesn't seem to be like from the talking points, and that seems to be like an honest, genuine sentiment that and what Dallas Goedert said is that when they made the playoffs, they went on cruise control. And it was just kind of like, waiting for the playoffs to begin. And he said it's kind of not what you're supposed to say, but he feels like that's what it's been around here is that they've been on cruise control waiting for the playoffs. And
I like that. That's honesty, at least.
Exactly. And like whether that helps them pick up the blitz or whether that helps them stop a third down, I can't tell you that. But that is an emotion that like you can understand, right? That they kind of showed up, and it's like the games that matter start to matter in January, and that they can show up and they can win because they did it 10 of 11 times. And then all of a sudden they realize that there were professional players across the field that if you don't show up, they're going to take advantage of you. But, there was a lot of stuff about the blitz. Like they knew Wink Martindale was going to blitz. Jason Kelce said that they had some stuff in there that they couldn't really get to. And, he was asked about different blitz beaters. He said the reality is to avoid being in those third downs, right, where they can come at you like that. So there's a lot here that needs to unpack. But honestly, much of what I heard in the locker room is similar to what either I've heard or the talking point that I could have predicted, because that's what they're telling themselves now. It's 0-0. It all resets. It's one and done. I heard Brandon Graham talk about, all you need is a crumb. And Jalen Hurts said the same thing about this thing about crumbs. But those crumbs were there last week against Arizona, right? Those crumbs were, today there wasn't much they could have played for there. But those crumbs were there against Seattle. So that's why the thing that I heard the most, or like the thing that I heard that was most believable today, was what Dallas Goedert said, was that they went on cruise control.
And of course, even if that's true, it's a dangerous thing to think that you can just turn it back on and flex those muscles again. They have lost that muscle memory to some degree. Super chat from, I think it was Corey, who's shouting out that we've got Cole rather. Zach the Bushman Berman, presented by Manscaped, is here. So that's exciting for you, Zach. We were talking about what question you would have asked Nick Sirianni. Did you ask a question to Sirianni? Settle our predictions.
Of course, I asked a question to Sirianni.
What was your?
I'm not here for vanity.
What was the framing of your question?
The framing of my question was, if you couldn't flip the switch last week, when you had those stakes, and you couldn't flip the switch this week, given the conversation going into the game, what makes you think you're going to flip the switch next week?
Bo nailed it. Bo nailed it, ladies and gentlemen. That's
Did you
a
really?
walk-off.
Did you really?
Yeah, he did. Almost to a
wow.
T.
That means we spend too much time together.
My question, Zach, I said, Bo,
Zach,
you know Zach
so
as well as anyone. What avenue is Zach's question going to go down in the press conference? And pretty much to a T.
He's going to say, what makes you believe that you have what it takes to turn this thing around?
You guys really are meant to be together.
Wow. Why did you think I was going to ask that? You just know the way yeah.
You guys complete each other's sentences.
Zach Berman every day.
So you're the one,
job.
Right?
I cover Zach Berman like you cover the Eagles.
Well, yeah. So I ask that because I do think, that's what keeps jumping out to me here is they think they can just show up, right? They think that they can flip a switch. They think they're one of these teams that is that good, and they
think they're last year's Eagles, Zach. Sure.
And so I honestly, the Arizona game, so I was on this show after, what was it, maybe Kansas City, I think it was Kansas City, and I think I said until they show me why I should pick against them, I'm not going to pick against them because they kept winning those games. Well, now I'm at the point where it's like the opposite. Until they show me that there's a reason that they can beat that they can beat any team, I don't have much confidence that they can, because they went out today and they weren't, I don't want to hear this whole thing about, their guys didn't play the whole game, or they didn't know it was on the, that they wasn't as much on the line today. It was 24-0 at the time Washington had a lead, right? So they didn't show up ready to play today. They didn't show up with answers on offense or defense. Their best players didn't show up. And given the way they played last week, that's inexcusable. Given the conversation about, this is about pride. This is about having momentum going into the postseason. That's inexcusable, right? Like, they would have been better off not playing their guys and at least having that excuse.
Yeah. Yes.
Right? So the fact that they went out there and they look like this, and that's what I'm saying. They don't have answers because there is no answer.
So Zach,
their only answers,
right,
the thing that they're saying about the 0-0, they can cling to that because it's true, but that doesn't help you beat Tampa Bay.
And as you said, there are so many times over the past 6 weeks when if they could have flipped a switch, they were capable of that. They would have done it, and they have utterly failed every time.
So, Zach, I might have a little piece of breaking news for you here. The Eagles are actually favored next week in Tampa Bay, 1.5-point favorite on the road in the playoffs. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm not surprised. The Eagles are an 11-win team that beat them. What was it in week 3? 25 to 11 or 10.
That sounds about right.
I'll tell you in a sec.
Yeah. So the fact that
wow, 25 to 11, good for you.
25 to 11, okay. So the fact that they're a better team this year, that they beat them once down there, that now obviously that line doesn't take into account yet. We don't know about AJ Brown's status, right?
Sure.
So we got to see there, because I don't think Vegas knows, because I don't know if the Eagles know yet. But this is that doesn't surprise me, and I do think they can beat Tampa. I think they are better than Tampa. I mean, Tampa barely beat Carolina today, right? Carolina hasn't had a lead going in the fourth quarter all season, and Carolina had 2 touchdowns wiped off the board, and Tampa Bay only won 9-0, right? So I do think they can beat Tampa, but
I'm sure they could.
Yeah, sure. But then you also wonder, and we can get into that this week. We have 5 shows, but there's like the human element too. Like, do you want to board a plane and go across country to San Francisco, right? Those guys are thinking, they have to have confidence they can go out there and make a run. So yeah, teams have done it. Tim McManus from ESPN had a good piece this morning, where like Sirianni showed the teams that struggled going into the postseason and then went on runs, but that didn't motivate them to come out and show any type of semblance of effort or success against the Giants.
All right, I got one for the both of you here. Now, I think when you look back at this season, there's going to be 3 epic pivot points of the season, and I want to know which one of you believes in which. I think there's the Big Dom effect, that maybe he was the special offensive consultant this entire time, made the offense fail. There was the Christian Ellis effect. Things went south when Christian Ellis was let go. And then 3, Sean Desai getting demoted in favor of Matt Patricia. Which of the 3 was the most derailing to the Eagles season?
Well, obviously the Christian Ellis thing leads to the Desai thing, and so that's got to be the number one pivot point.
And Zach, which would you choose?
Yeah, definitely Desai.
Not Big Dom.
Desai Patricia thing.
But I think what we are learning is that, and this is serious, it's that given how obviously terribly this has gone since they went to Matt Patricia, it is not the decision to go from Sean Desai to Matt Patricia that is the big thing. It is what that tells us about what was already happening in the building.
Yeah.
The fact that they had to push that button tells you that this was coming, this was rotten from underneath for longer than we knew.
Exactly. There are 3 things there. First off, that's like a tangible thing. The defense has gotten worse because they have a play caller who did not install this defense, who does not oversee this defense, and it's not his defense, and so they've gotten worse since then. That's number 1. Number 2, the fact that they felt they had to make that change at 10-2. The fact that, like, as Bo said, they saw something there to make them think this is the direction they needed to go, shows that there was something festering there. And then the third thing is you played that card, right? Once you play that card, that's like pushing your chips in the table. You can save that for a different time. You could have saved that for if they had lost against Seattle, right? Or if they had lost against Arizona, right? Like they used it at that point. And once you use it, you don't have it left. It's like using a timeout. Once you use it, you're rolling there. So because they can't like fire Patricia now, right? They can't go back to Desai. They've put themselves in this corner. So to me, that was the big move. We thought at the time that it either seemed premature or it was scapegoating. Like it was such odd timing for it after that Dallas game. For it to backfire the way it has, I got to be honest, I've never seen the only move that I've seen in football that's like backfired worse than that, and again, I don't have a whole catalog of it, was that time that Sean McDermott benched Tyrod Taylor for Nate Peterman, and then Peterman threw 7 interceptions or whatever it was, and he had to put Tyrod back in, and they ended up making the playoffs, right? I've never seen an in-season move backfire to this magnitude. When I watched them on defense today, I couldn't believe it. They had no idea. I sat 3 seats away from Jimmy Kempski, and I don't know what it was like on the TV copy. And the All-22, the pass to Saquon Barkley down the left sideline, that set up the score in the first half.
Yeah,
you could see that develop before the play, and it's like, wow, Saquon's wide open here, and it was
right. He comes across
like
the line in motion. Nobody they're slow to follow him. He releases off like a great Nicholas Morrow's got to trail him from 5 yards behind. And
it was as if
Smith,
exactly. So it was crazy to see that. And then offensively, man, the way that blitz was coming, they had no answers. Jalen just looked dejected. I'm not a body language guy, but Jalen just looked dejected.
This is the big
field.
Dom effect.
They had no answer.
Now, Zach, your boy, Mike Garafolo, reporting just moments ago that the Eagles believe Sidney Brown suffered a torn ACL.
Oh, good stuff.
Against the Giants.
Yeah.
He will undergo testing tomorrow.
MetLife Field strikes again.
He was so 2 things there. First off, he was declared out right away. So that's a bad sign when you're declared out right away. That's not an example of like, should Nick have played his guys or not? Sidney Brown would have been on the field regardless, right? So I know that discussion. Now you can use that as an example for why he shouldn't have played his guys or his starters. But Sidney Brown would have been out there no matter what today. So that's unfortunate and affects the defense. And good thing they had Bradley Roby active today, as he went in there.
Yeah. Well, they better hope it's a Monday Night Football game so that Bradley Roby gets to play in primetime.
You're right.
Do you think they were so bad today that they played themselves out of Monday Night Football? I guess we'll probably find out.
Someone asked me that
momentarily.
We'll find out in an hour or so. I mean, C.J. Stroud looked awesome last night.
Yeah.
Joe Flacco's been a big story.
Yeah, that seems like a much more fun
You never
game.
know. But the reality is, this is the second year of the Monday game, right? What matters most is are those TV ratings. And, Jamie knows this well, right? Like they
typically
the
networks,
Eagles
are a huge draw, one that networks fight for. Yes, I don't think that's the case right now.
And what really, it's the second year of the Monday night game, so they need to show like the football side of it, whether it's the football side. There's a reason for this. Look at the numbers this is generating, right? So last year they had Tampa Bay, Dallas. That was a huge, it was Brady's last game. That was a huge Monday night game. This year, I get it that the Eagles aren't playing well, but Eagles Tampa would be a big draw. Now,
I don't know that it's a big. I mean, who knows? People are going to watch regardless.
True.
Get the
and
better
maybe
team.
CJ Stroud Flacco. Yeah. Maybe CJ Stroud Flacco is the better one. I certainly hope CJ Stroud Flacco is the better one. I would much rather a Sunday game or Saturday game, even but Sunday, let's say.
Get you that Sunday 1 o'clock. Yeah.
Yeah, give me that more than the Monday. Yeah,
so Zach, let's fast forward ahead through time here. Next Sunday morning, Monday morning, or Tuesday morning, whatever it may be. What is Zach Berman's headline story after the game?
I mean, I do think they're going to win, and it's that they set up this.
You can't pick them anymore until they have to.
I know, but I get that, but I can't pick.
Opie.
I can't pick a not. What Tampa finished 9-8. I can't pick a 9-8 Tampa team with Baker Mayfield as the quarterback.
They've got a better point differential than the Eagles.
That's true. So the Eagles bounced back to finish with a
+5
with a positive point differential +5. But there was a point in that game when they were negative. And this is an interesting stat that I was waiting to put out after the game if they finished it this way. The only 3 times during my time on the beat when the Eagles have had a negative point differential was 2012 when they fired Andy Reid, 2015 when they fired Chip Kelly, and 2020 when they fired Doug Peterson. It's the only 3 times that they've had a negative point differential. A matter of fact, you have to go back to 2005 or 2006. I think 2005. Yeah, the post Super Bowl year, for the only other time when the Eagles had a negative point differential since the year 2000, other than those 3 years when they fired the head coach. So that goes to show you the way those seasons were. And I can say, because we haven't gotten into the Sirianni discussion, and we'll have time to do this, I covered the end of each of those coaches that I mentioned, okay? And those were like season-long declines. But I've never seen a worse stretch. I've never seen a worse stretch than this. And in particular,
From a team
these
with
past
something
2 weeks.
to play for.
Yes, exactly. The only thing that I think compares it for a team that has something to play for was that stretch in Chip's last year of Tampa, Miami, Detroit. I think it was Detroit on Thanksgiving, being the third one. Other than that, there's never been a stretch like this. This is bad, and that's why I don't think Nick Sirianni deserves to be fired. I don't think Nick Sirianni deserves to be on the hot seat. I have covered Jeffrey Lurie, and I know Jeffrey Lurie, and Jeffrey Lurie sees this. He sees what we all see here, and the way he's reacted to these types of things in the past, because they haven't happened very often, but the way he's reacted to these types of things in the past has been with major changes. So it's never happened during a winning season, that's for sure. And it's never happened. And they still have time to write this script. But this is absolutely alarming to be here right now, to see what I saw today, the type of football, to see what I saw last week. It's crazy to think 2 weeks ago against the same team, the Eagles dominated them, right? Deniz had the stats of like what the Eagles' points per drive were. And outside of two fluky plays in that game, the Eagles, two fluky turnovers, Eagles dominated them. The Eagles didn't look like they belonged on the field today. I've seen defenses in the third preseason game, when it used to be the fourth preseason game, more prepared for what than what this defense was today. So Zach, yeah, this is alarming.
I'm curious off of that. Like, there's a really good chance now, and I do think it's crazy to think this is a real discussion, but it's going to be that there could be wholesale changes throughout this coaching staff. If Jeffrey Lurie and Howie Roseman make that decision, mostly Jeffrey, is it more because of the defense or the offensive performance this year? Granted, I know the defense, is easy to say is the reason, but I think offensively they underperformed to a big degree. Which do you think is the driving reason of why change could come?
Oh, well, I would think the overall responsiveness of the team down the stretch here, but of those two sides of the ball would be the defense. And that's why I think it's more likely they make a change on defense. And that's what happens this offseason, because I don't know today's numbers will really affect it. But going into this game, I think they were number 8 in DVOA on offense, right? So they still have a top 10 offense. These past 2 weeks, they put up 30 points in both those games. The previous 2 weeks, I think internally they probably don't view offense as big a problem. I think they probably look at some things situationally that need to be fixed, and as Bo's referred to in terms of game management this year. But I think the overall metrics on the offensive side of the ball have been more positive than kind of the micro look on some of the play calling. And Deniz had the stats the other day about Jalen Hurts. I do think they need to do more to maximize Jalen Hurts, but I think they look at some like non-sticky stats here, such as turnovers, as reasons why the offense is playing probably even better than the reputation might be. But the defense, all the numbers suggest this defense is as bad of a group as there's been in a long time.
So given that he made the Eagles' point differential positive for the season, would you say that Quez Watkins saved Nick Sirianni's job?
I don't. And honestly, that second half, I was working on some, I went down there early. I was looking at some other stuff, and you're trying to figure things out.
Good instincts.
Yeah. I saw a lot coming off the field there. But I kind of looked up, I'm like, wow, Quez is having a good game. So
wait,
who
so
had
what did
the
you
Quez
see?
this
What
week?
did you see down there?
Well, the AJ Brown thing that
Okay.
I was down there with two other guys with Jameson Garrow and Tim McManus and Elliot Short Parks, so three others, and yeah, you saw AJ Brown standing at the door greeting everybody. That was big. You saw I saw Jeffrey Lurie come in. I think the AJ Brown thing. That's what I was really.
What was the facial
interested in seeing,
expression on Mr. Lurie there, Zach?
Stone faced, right? Stone faced. He didn't. Yeah,
He gave you
there
nothing.
wasn't much there.
Yeah.
Nothing there. But again, right? He hadn't met with Jeffrey. Oh, I'm sorry, he hadn't met with Nick yet. There's a lot that goes through your mind right there. There's nothing into those interactions. But the AJ thing I found to be very interesting, and the fact that there were no crutches, there was nothing that would indicate this being a major injury, right? Like I was outside that LA Coliseum locker room when Carson Wentz had the torn ACL, and he was on a golf cart going to the team bus, right? He greeted everyone that day too, but he was on crutches and he went on a golf cart, right? And you knew then, holy crap, this is serious. There was nothing that I saw from AJ Brown that would suggest like this is that type of injury. Now that doesn't mean he's going to be on the field Sunday. And then I wanted to see Jalen with my eye. Like I wanted to see the finger there, so to speak. And it was funny. I saw the TV copy when he had the middle finger held up, and I say, I don't, was that just mimicking Eagles fans at that moment? You like that? I'm testing out material for my story here.
Okay.
So it could be a good lead. But yeah, Jalen was holding.
I think what you could say is that the state of the Eagles is that even when he's expressing the same emotion as most Eagles fans, he can't even give the finger right.
And why is that? Well, the finger was up, wasn't it?
Yeah, but it's all crooked. It's all he can't even.
Oh, okay.
It wasn't a good bird.
Okay. Yeah. Gotcha. Okay. But now that of all fingers, right? So no, I saw him holding his bag and he was able to grip his bag with his right hand, but he wasn't necessarily using that finger to grip it. But he was gripping his bag.
You were really zeroed in.
Yeah, that's what I'm here for, right? I'm not here for the taco line. I'm here to report for the PHLY.
He's going to be packing his bags with that hand soon enough.
Yeah, maybe, or it's all 0-0. He said he talked after the game about the standard, and he always talks about the standard, right? And
oh yeah.
He said, but then he had. But right now we just need to win. He's like, right now we just need to win. It doesn't matter how.
That's pretty good, actually.
Yeah, he's like, I always talk about the standard, and you have to play the standard, and you feel it in your soul and all this stuff. And then he's like, but we just need to win, and he's right. They just need to win right now. It doesn't matter how it's coming around.
So they're so bad they've broken Jalen out of his cliche roboticness.
Yeah, now the standard doesn't matter. It's just a win. It's just a win. Yep.
Rent's due, but maybe your landlord will give you an extra week or two.
That's what they're looking for. One more week on that rent, right? Anything can happen thereafter.
All right, Zach. Well, we look forward to reading what you come up with on allphly.com tonight. You and I will be back tomorrow at 3:30 here for the PHLY Eagles podcast. Maybe a meeting of the congregation. We'll see what happens. Thank you for your efforts tonight. You look good. We'll talk to you tomorrow.
Thank you.
We all silly like the mayor.